Preview season rolls on, and today it's all about the Arkansas Razorbacks. Can they bounce or continue really the improvement that we saw last year under Bobby Petrino's leadership on offense? The defense was much improved themselves. Can they continue that improvement? Can they make a bowl game for the second year in a row? We'll talk about all that and more, of course. A great portal class. All kinds of good things to say about this Arkansas team. Can they capitalize? That's the biggest question. We'll talk about that here today. Welcome to Armchair Analysis, this Wednesday edition here, June 25th, 2025. Hope y'all are having a fantastic day so far. If you are, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about the Arkansas Razorbacks. What do you expect from them this season? If you're a fan, let me know. Keep an ear open while I do this preview. Let me know if there's something I may miss over the course of the preview itself. The unfortunate thing is that sometimes things do get missed, and while I try not to, it does happen sometimes. So make sure you let me know what you think, and let's go ahead and get into it. Before we can preview, we got to talk about last year for this Arkansas team, and they were again solid, 7-6, 3-5 in conference play. Not as good as you would like to have seen. But it is a vast improvement, and a lot of that is thanks in part to Bobby Petrino and what he was able to do coming back to Arkansas, returning. And it was kind of an unlikely return, but once it happened, I think we were all really excited to see what it turned into. Of course, we didn't know what it would be. Taylor Green, the new quarterback. Of course, they lose or had lost Rocket Sanders to the portal. How do they build off of that? How do they figure out who they are? And I think they did a really good job of doing that. Of course, they were a team that averaged over 30 points per game, 30.9 to be exact. That was 44th in college football. Averaged allowing 25 points per game, which was good for 66. And their turnover margin per game was a negative 0.7. That's 115th in college football. That was the biggest weakness, I think, was just winning the turnover battle consistently. As for their recruiting classes, they were number 32 in recruiting. They were number 16 in the portal, bringing in 31 commitments. A really big deal towards, again, continuing to push forward. This year, what are the strengths? Of course, it's going to be the offense, Bobby Petrino coming back, but I think the defense is going to improve themselves. You have an offensive line that I think is always going to be a strength as long as Sam Pittman is leading the charge. But then you have to really wonder, okay, who steps up this year? You lose a lot of wide receivers. Of course, Isaac Tesla was the one that really, I think, hurts when you talk about guys that you lose. How do you build off of that? Who do you bring in to replace that kind of production? And I think they did an okay job of solving that problem. The offense, of course, is going to be led by Taylor Green at quarterback, and I think he is the key player for this offense. If he stays healthy, this is going to be a fun team. This is going to be a good team. Granted, I think their schedule is much, much more difficult this year than it was last year. You got Braylon Russell, and then Mike Washington Jr. comes over from New Mexico State. He's going to be at the running back room, and I think a really good 1-2 punch is what they'll have there behind that. Again, a really solid offensive line. While we're talking about it, let's go ahead and discuss. Caden Kittler coming over from UCF to join the offensive line. Corey Robinson coming from Georgia Tech. Their grades, their PFF grades offensively as a unit, the offensive line was not solid. But again, I think that there is room for growth. And again, if Sam Pittman's there, I trust an offensive line that he is coaching. We move to the wide receiver room. How is this pass game going to look? Of course, they bring back Monty Harrison. That is really their guy in terms of coming back in this program, returning and being productive. But they bring in Omega Blake from UNC Charlotte. That's going to be a really interesting adjustment. But if he can be what they expect him to be by bringing him in, I think that'll be a solid group. And he may, quite honestly, turn into one of the favorite targets of Taylor Green. The other one, I'm going to assume I'm saying this right, but I'm also going to assume I'm wrong because I don't actually know how to pronounce Ismail Cisse, I believe is how you say that. Coming over from Stanford, a guy that I think got overshadowed by Alec Manor last year. I'm intrigued to see what he can do as a potential star player again for this offense. They got Rohan Jones at tight end. He's going to be pretty steady, I think. I don't expect a ton, but I don't have low expectations. Again, it's all in the usage rate and of course what Bobby Petrino decides to do. I really do. I can't say it enough how much I trust what Petrino does and what his idea is for this offense going forward. I think that no matter what, it's going to be relatively successful. I just think that there is a cap. I think there's a talent limit, again, given the schedule they're playing. That's the biggest concern for me with the offense. As for the defense, they bring back 9 of 11 players from last year. And I'm not saying 9 of 11 returning starters. I'm saying they bring 9 of their 11 projected starters return from 2024. Why is that a big deal? Because you want continuity within your program, especially on the defensive side of the football. Travis Williams has been, and really this Arkansas team has been battling keeping guys in the program, especially on the defensive side of the football. You think back to Jalen Catalon, the Metcalf brothers that just transferred out to Michigan, and I'm certain there's plenty more. Those are the two that come to mind, and I don't want to waste a bunch of time to look for other names. When you think of those guys, when you think of the talented players that have come through this program and then have walked elsewhere defensively, having 9 of 11 return and be projected starters is a big deal. The guys they bring in are David Oki from Abilene Christian. I may have said that one wrong too, but a defensive tackle from Abilene Christian. And then Caleb Wooden, a cornerback from Auburn. Last year's leaders were Xavier Sori Jr., 99 tackles. He's returning as a leading tackler. He also was a leader in sacks along with Steven Dix Jr. Both of those guys had 2 sacks apiece. Tackles for loss was Sori Jr. again, 10 tackles for loss. And then multiple players had 1 interception and multiple players had 1 forced fumble returning from last year. A big question for me is how do they replace the production of TJ Metcalf, who was an interception leader, had 3. Who's going to step up and be that ball hawking player and be able to force turnovers? Because I think that's going to be the way they win football games this year. Creating turnovers, creating problems for offenses. And I think that there's a level of aggression they're able to have, and then at the same time, they do need to have people in the secondary who can make up for the aggression up front. This is not going to be a team that wins a lot, I don't believe, at the line of scrimmage. I'm not going to say they're going to be bad. Do not misunderstand what I'm telling you. But I think they are going to have their own issues up front, creating them where they have to be more aggressive. And again, they have to capitalize off of bad passes and forced mistakes that they get from what, again, is going to be, I would say, a relatively questionable pass rush. My thoughts on this team are pretty simple. I think it'll be a solid defense. I don't really expect greatness. I don't expect them to not be good either. I think they're just going to be kind of a middle-of-the-road team, and if they get to a bowl game, which should be their goal is a bowl game, then that means they pulled off an upset or two. If they don't get to a bowl game, it means they probably won the games they were supposed to and lost the games they were not supposed to win. Beyond that, there's not much more that I can add about this team, so let's go ahead and take a look at their schedule. And it's interesting. You know, you start off with Alabama A&M and Arkansas State, and Arkansas State's not a guaranteed win. I think that team's going to continue to improve. They were much improved last year. I think they have a really interesting opportunity here under Butch Jones, and I think Jalen Rayner, a guy who didn't quite live up to the hype last year, has potential with another year in the system, and they made some moves to improve their receiver room. It's not a foregone conclusion win, but I am predicting it as such, and we'll get more further into that later. You get a road game against Ole Miss, a road game against Tennessee, on the road against LSU and Texas. You get that Tennessee game, obviously they won last year. They beat Tennessee last year in Arkansas and Fayetteville. Now you got to go on the road to Knoxville. If this game's played in Fayetteville, I'm probably taking Arkansas to win. We'll see what I have because I still think it's a coin flip type of a game. Two teams on a similar level. Texas A&M and Auburn both I think, are going to be improved this year. LSU, Texas, playoff contenders, and then there's Missouri, who is projected bottom 5, along with Mississippi State, bottom 5 in the conference. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into predicting. And of course, I'm going to give 2 wins here. Alabama A&M, that's going to be an easy game. Come out, do what you got to do, walk away. Arkansas State is going to test them, and I think it's really going to test them in terms of what they can do to contain a quarterback, a mobile quarterback at that. And even then, in week 3, they go on the road and they're going to face another mobile quarterback, Austin Simmons. I think it's going to take him some time to really settle in and be good. I think this is going to be a close game simply because it is going to take time. It's not going to be an automatic success story out there in Oxford. It's going to be a close game, but I am giving the nod to Ole Miss. I just think they're the more talented team. Really hard to deny that concept. Memphis. You talk about Arkansas State being tough. Memphis, obviously, is a super tough team to play. And, they lose Seth Hennigan over the offseason, of course, to the NFL. How are they going to replace him? Well, they got a guy named Brandon Lewis. And if you are not familiar with Brandon Lewis, previously the quarterback at Nevada had a lot of high hopes behind him and still does. Obviously, the Wolfpack could not put around him a roster that could compete at a high level or could compete at the Mountain West level at that extent. He's going over to Memphis to replace their quarterback and play in an air raid system. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch him do what he can do. This is going to be a tough game, and this game being played in Memphis, just down the road, it's going to be a tough game. This is not a guaranteed win by any means. I'm giving Arkansas the win, but it's not guaranteed. As a matter of fact, when we get to this game on September 20th, I may be predicting a Memphis win. It just depends on how both these teams start the season and how they look. You get Notre Dame at home. I think this is a really fun game to have at home. It's going to be interesting, of course, because Notre Dame's got an interesting schedule. They're going to be in the midst of, obviously, their schedule with ACC teams, but they're also going to be playing, I think, Boise State either the week before or the week after this, or the game before or game after this. So Notre Dame's going to have a lot to focus on themselves. It's going to be really interesting, but I am giving the nod here to Notre Dame. I think they're just a better team. I think they're a national championship contender. It all depends on CJ Carr, what he can be. But this is a team that I am really not even remotely concerned with. Tennessee, on the road, I could easily see myself taking Arkansas in this game when the time comes. There are question marks around this Tennessee program. I've been very clear about that, and I think it remains. Joey Aguilar, what can he be? Can he be the quarterback that they need to be able to return to the college football playoff? And the true answer for me is I don't think so. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't think he has the arm talent to do what he needs to do what this team needs from him to get them there. I do think there's a lot around him, though, that can make this difficult. And the Tennessee defense is going to be good. The home crowd's going to be behind him. That's the main reason why I'm taking the Vols to get the win here. And Arkansas to be 3-3 after their first 6 games. Going into the second half, a legitimate shot at 6 wins. So let's go ahead and take the second half. Texas A&M at home. I think this game is going to be close. It's always a battle. But I am taking Texas A&M to get the win. I think at this point, Marcel Reed's going to be comfortable. The offense is going to be good. A name to watch for A&M is Kevin Concepcion, or KC Concepcion, however he goes by at this point. A guy that you really need to pay attention to and watch in this A&M offense. Auburn, I think at this point they're going to be pretty well sorted out, have everything they need in the right position, and I think this wide receiver room is going to be really fun at this point in the season, late October through November. I'm expecting a lot from guys like Eric Singleton, Cam Coleman. I think Jackson Arnold will start to figure it out. I'm taking Auburn here. Mississippi State, I am going to give the win to Arkansas. I think that they are just simply better than Mississippi State. LSU and Texas, two playoff teams, two teams I think are contending for a national championship even at this point. I'm giving 2 losses to Arkansas there. So you're going to come into this without a chance to make a bowl game. But it is a chance at a few things. Some bragging rights over Missouri. And a chance to walk out of the season with your head held high. A win and being close to a bowl game for back-to-back seasons. I think they're going to get it done. I just simply believe that the Arkansas team all around is better than Missouri. I think the defensive side of the ball heavily favors Missouri. But when we're talking about offense, I do not believe that Bo Prabula is the answer. And until I see it, I'm not going to predict it. So it gives me a lot of confidence in Arkansas and Missouri. Like I said, with Mississippi State, bottom 5 team projected in the conference, at least in terms of betting odds. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting for a lot of reasons. But 5-7, 2-6 for Arkansas in conference play. I think that's tough, but it does again just go to show the distinct difference between the top and bottom of this conference. I think there's a lot of good to be had here, though. A lot of positives, and I think that Sam Pittman's done enough at times to buy himself more time. It really just depends on where they're at, where their athletic director is, and where they sit in the NIL game. Obviously, if they're able to compete at an NIL level, maybe you look at a different direction. But for right now, I don't see why you would or why you would think to make a change. Nonetheless, though. As you saw on the screen at the bottom, it was over under 5.5. Obviously, taking the under by half a game. I think the over is certainly less likely. I would say 5 is. I'd say 6 or 7 is probably their max again this year in the regular season. I think 4 is probably the floor here for this team. I don't really see them being worse than 4-8, and if they are, then it certainly is a fireable type of a season for Sam Pittman. They're plus 16,000 to win the SEC. What really intrigued me is they're plus 50,000 to win a national championship, which a lot of teams that are expected to just be not good, even at the SEC level, are projected at plus 100,000. So I thought plus 50,000 was interesting, at least the way I was looking at and the way I've been looking through the entirety of this looking through betting odds and stuff like that. I just thought it was really interesting the way it worked out. Sorry that I tripped over my words. But with that said, that wraps it up here for Arkansas. Again, if you're a fan of Arkansas or if you know something I may have missed, please leave it in the comment section below. Let me know what I may have missed, a player we need to watch out for, and maybe even your record prediction for the Razorbacks in 2025. I thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for the support on the recent videos. Please leave a like if you got this far, subscribe, comment down below, and we will see you guys tomorrow. It's NC State as we hit the ACC once again. Thank you guys. Have a good day.